Hey residents of Meepletown, today we are taking on the role of Goonies, and the Goondocks are in danger of being torn down, and in place of that will go a country club. And so we are going to be searching after One-Eyed Willie's treasure in the Goonies Never Say Die, and it's our time to go find that treasure. So let's get to the table and see if this game is good enough for you. It's good enough for me. Let's get to the table and check it out. Now, here's the setup for Goonies Never Say Die. I'm not going to play through a ton of this. I really just want to kind of give you an idea, but I also want to be able to show you what is included, what's involved in this game. So essentially, you're going to have a player who will take on the role of the Goondocks Master, and they will be kind of playing the dungeon as it is, I guess, playing the different enemies, playing the foes on there. And then you're going to have the Goonies players. And in this case, I've just got two players set up. I've got Sloth, who is represented by this orange mini. And then I'm going to have Chunk, who is represented by this red mini. And they're going to take their turns first. The Goondocks Master is going to take their turn, and I'm just, again, going to kind of show you some of that. So at first, the only thing that they have is a starting area where they are, and on their turn they can take two actions, and one of those would include moving and searching, attacking, all those different things. But right now, this is all that they can see, and the only place that they can move into is this unexplored area here that's represented by this little unexplored token on there. And so, yeah, that's what's going to happen. So the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to gain a wish token. And I'll explain what those will do in just a minute. They're going to have, there we go, gain one of those wish tokens. And all this, it's actually really helpful that they have these little cards that have all this information on there. So at the start of the turn, they're going to gain their wish token. Then they're going to take their turns in any order. I'll start with Sloth just because it's the one that's closest to me right now. And again, what they can do is take two actions, and they can move, search, attack, rest, do a treasure action, which we don't have those yet, or an adventure action, which that won't come into play quite yet either, or the attack one for that matter. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I will, with Sloth is going to go explore this room on his own. Now, if you can see this on Sloth's card, you'll see that each of the characters, actually, let me go ahead and show you both of these. So each of the characters are going to have these different abilities on their cards, and Sloth's strongest ability is Strength, okay? And that means I don't mind Sloth going off on his own, because if he gets attacked, then he can probably defend him, or, attack and defend himself, because his health is actually pretty high as well. So it's more okay for him to go off on his own. But also, he has the Protector ability that says whenever another Goonie in Sloth's room would take damage from a foe, Sloth may take all of the damage instead. Sloth may not do this if he is stunned or trapped. And then also, once per turn, if Sloth moves into a room with a foe, he may take a free attack action. And so that's really powerful. Again, a reason why I don't mind Sloth kind of going off on his own. Now, meanwhile, when Sloth moves into that room, then that room is going to be explored. And so essentially, and I didn't read this, and I'll kind of leave you to read some of this, but the Goondocks Master is going to have this adventure guide, which is going to show the setup for the different scenarios. And in this scenario specifically, whenever that character enters into that room, you'll have some text that goes along with it. But essentially, what the Goonies are trying to do is get through whatever maze is going to be, laid out before them. That's what they're trying to do. And then the Goondocks Master is trying to get all of these 4 sand tokens to the bottom of that. And I'll explain what they can do, how they can do that on their turn. So after that character walks into the room, then we're going to set the stage. And so this unexplored token is going to be removed, and we're going to, kind of left these tokens over here. Once they go into that room, we're going to set it, put these new tokens in here, and then we also are going to have a foe that enters into the room, and that is going to be it's going to be a bat swarm that's going to go into that location. Actually, we'll have these bat swarms. So now they are going to need to attack that and you know, take care of what's going on there. Meanwhile, also, so now just recognize Sloth only has one turn that they've taken right now, okay? Or half of their turn. They're still in the middle of their turn. The Goondocks Master also has these cards that they're going to be working with. Now, these are cards that will have an ability at the top, excuse me, that says that they can do this thing on their turn. And then they're also going to have reactions on the bottom. They're only going to be able to choose to do one of those. Now, if they use the top part, it's only going to be able to use it on their turn, and they're going to have to, they'll get the first one they can play for free, but then after that, they'll have to spend their GM, their Goondocks Master tokens to be able to play more beyond that. But this card says, this is the Flash Flood one that I just put up there. So, whoops, there we go. So this says, after a Goonie moves through a passage, place a rubble token on that passage. So immediately after they do that, as the Goondocks Master, I'm going to discard this card, and I'm going to take a rubble token and place it on that passage. Now, what that does is makes it more difficult for Chunk to be able to get through there and kind of trap Sloth in this area. So the Goondocks Master is going to be changing things throughout the game, sometimes, again, even, you know, in mid-turn. So now Sloth has one more action, and Sloth is going to attack that Bat Swarm. And what they're going to do is just, again, shows what dice they're going to roll. And Sloth has two of the green ones, the highest ones for their strength. Now, let's just assume for a second that theirs was the red, which is the lowest. These are 6-sided die. Then we have the 8-sided, and then the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 12-sided. Sorry, I forgot what the other side was. Then you're going to have the 12-sided die. So on their turn, if they had these two to roll, they can actually spend one of their wish tokens, and if they do that, they'll be able to upgrade the dice that they have. So I would be able to spend one wish token to upgrade this one to the blue die. Whoops, there we go. Which is, again, an 8-sided die, so I could upgrade to this one. I could also upgrade that to a green die. I can do it as much as I want as long as I have the wish tokens, but Sloth does actually not need to do that, and so I'm just going to roll 2. The other thing you can do with your wish tokens is, if Chunk was in the same room as Sloth, then Chunk can use one of their dice that they have. They spend a wish token and then use one of theirs to roll with Sloth. So there's a teamwork aspect that works out there, but you're never allowed to use more than 3 dice whenever you're rolling. So what Chunk will do is roll and what Sloth is going to do is roll and is looking for crossbones. Now, this is good because I've got 2 here and 1 here, and the Rat Swarm only has 3. So I'm actually going to take this one out, and whenever I do that, I'm going to gain a wish token, giving me another wish token. Now, I can only hold on to so many of those at the end of the turn, but it's fine because I'm kind of overloaded by those. Unfortunately, Sloth wasn't able to really do much with those, but I will have to discard down to 3, which is shown on my board. Now it's over to Chunk, and what Chunk wants to do would like to really go over there and help Sloth and try to attack that Bat Swarm, but what Chunk is going to do instead is search, I believe. So if they take the search action, what that's going to mean is they're going to find one of these tokens in here, and sometimes it'll be these treasure chests, sometimes it'll be a pile of bones, but they're going to search in that. And what they're going to do is look on their board, and their search is here. So Chunk is going to roll 2 of the 8-sided dice. And let me go ahead and read Chunk's abilities. It says that whenever Chunk spends a wish token to upgrade a die, he may upgrade 2 dice instead, which is really, really a big one. And then also, if Chunk is given teamwork when taking an attack action, he may divide any damage dealt between any foes in his room. So normally you're attacking one foe that's in there. So what Chunk is going to do is roll these 2 search dice, but I am going to go ahead and spend 1 wish token and upgrade those because, again, Chunk can do that for, can upgrade both of them for just one of those wish tokens. So I will roll, and what I'm looking to get is 2. Now, what happens whenever you're searching here, this token's going to go away, for those types. The bone ones will stay out on the board. But then Chunk is going to take an item card automatically. No matter what that player would have rolled, they're going to get that for sure. And also, the reason why you roll is because if you get two of those, two of the bones on there, then you're actually going to be able to take a treasure card as well. So I will take a treasure card, and now I have these available. Now what this is Chunk has a one-use card, and this one is the candle card. And what the candle card says is that you can discard to remove or place up to 3 rebel tokens on an adjacent passage. So I'm going to hold off on this because whenever it is time for me to... Actually, no, I am going to go ahead. I can discard to remove or place up to 3 rebel tokens, and I will go ahead and do that. I'm going to remove a rebel token here because I just remembered that Chunk's only taken 1 action, so I'm going to remove that. And then on Chunk's second action, Chunk is going to move into this spot. Now, this also says that your wish token maximum is increased by 2 when this treasure is drawn. I gain 2 wish tokens. So that was my treasure card. The treasure cards are going to stay with you. They're not just one-time use cards, but you do have to discard down to 2 at the end of the round. So Chunk's taking their actions. All right, before we take the Goondox Master's turn, remember the Goonies need to discard down their wishes. Sloth can only hold on to 3. Chunk can hold on to 3, but again can hold on to 2 more, so that's 5. And at the end of that, they can also, where's the card here? They can also, at the end of their turn, they can give items and treasure cards to each other, and that's also going to be really helpful. But then they again do have to discard down. Now it is over to the Goondox Master's turn, and everything that they have is going to be behind this shield right here to all the information they need to know. All their round information, what they can do, what all the tokens do. It's really, really helpful. I'll talk about that a little bit in the art and components piece of the review. But basically what they're going to do is they're going to gain one of these tokens. Just like the Goonies players, they're going to gain one of these. This is like their wish tokens, except they're the Goondox Master's token. They do things kind of the same, but also a little bit different. And after they do that, they're going to activate their foes. And what they're going to do is they're going to move first and then attack. And so that is going to it's going to attack a Goonie in the same room, and then it attacks kind of in the same way. This giant rat right here shows whoops, sorry, wrong card. This bat swarm, I got the wrong one on back there behind the screen there, but this is going to show what their strength is going to be if they have any special abilities, and then what their health is going to be at the top. So their strength is a 2 6-sided die. They're going to attack Sloth, and they're going to, now they have a choice. Just like the Goonies player, they can upgrade these dice to make that attack a little bit more effective, but the thing is they kind of have an idea of something they want to do with one of their cards, and so they're going to hold off on spending those. So they'll roll those, and it will hit Sloth 1 time. Now what Sloth can do is spend one of the wish tokens to negate that attack, and I think Sloth will go ahead and do that. Just because I'm going to gain another one, I still have 2 there, so I think I will just spend that and take no damage at all. So that's the other thing you can do with those wish tokens. So nothing really happens there with that attack. Then after that, the Goondox Master is going to draw one of these cards into their hands, and now what they can do is play 1 card. Now they can also spend these Goondox Master tokens to draw or play additional cards, but I think right now they're going to be fine with what they have. First, so I'm going to play this card, and one thing I didn't mention with this, because we're just now getting to this, is if it has this little hourglass token on there, what you're trying to do again is get that hourglass down to the bottom so they can do an end is nigh roll to be able to move one of those sand tokens down. And so what they're going to do is they're going to take 3 of these dice. I will play this for that end is nigh roll. I'm going to take 3 of these, whoops, don't discard that yet, and I'm going to roll these. Now what I'm looking to get is 2 of these symbols on there, and I did get that. Now also, anytime you roll this, that Goondox Master is going to get one of those tokens. So because I rolled 2 of those, I'm going to take this right here, I'll lean over here, and this is going to move down to the bottom, so I'm 1 step closer to being able to complete that objective as the Goondocks Master. And when that happens, this card is going to be discarded. If I failed that roll, then I could have, then I would have taken that card and shuffled it back into the deck up here, so that it will come out a little bit later. And then I think what I'll do is I will, since I didn't have to spend any of those tokens already, I'm going to spend one to play another card, and I'll play the Dreadful Momentum, which allows me to draw 3 GM cards. And so really just kind of stacking myself up and setting myself up for the future. And then that is going to be the end of the round. And so now it's going to be the Goonies round. They'll start all over again. Again, continue to explore so that they can find their way out of the caves. And I think that kind of gives you an idea of how the game plays. I probably messed some things up in there trying to play both sides, but at least you get the gist of how things are going to play out. That these are going to go back and forth, and Goonies, trying to advance, and the Goondocks Master trying to slow that advance down. Now, let's talk about the art and components. So pretty much, I was going to say this is kind of, what you're looking at is what you get, but there's actually a lot more in the box. And I'll share some of that. Some of it you can see on the back of the box, but you've got those 2 characters that I've shown. Then you're also going to have Data, and you're going to have Mikey, and there's Mikey and Mouth. And they each have their own abilities and placards that you can use as well. We could have chosen these instead. Love the artwork on these. I think they're really cool. I'm glad that they went with that illustrated style instead of going with the art from the movies. Or, the screenshots from the movies. You've got miniatures for the Fratellis. They're going to come out a little bit later, not too much later. And then you've got One-Eyed Willie and the octopus. And I just love it, and especially the little nod to the octopus there. One thing that is kind of weird though, you do have One-Eyed Willie, who is a figure that is up, like moving around, not what you see in the movies, but that's fine. I think it's kind of adds a little bit more to the adding more foes and bosses to the game. And the other thing, I already mentioned this, but you have the Goondocks Master screen here, which I think is just fantastic. Laid out really well. You actually feel like you're a dungeon master, when you're sitting behind that screen. You've got lots of other cards. Each scenario that you play is going to add different Goondocks Master cards that changes things up from game to game. You're going to have these different treasure cards that are specific to scenarios, and that's kind of it. But there's a lot of stuff in this game, but I'm pleased with the components, especially for this game that comes out in big box stores. I'm really pleased with that. But is the gameplay itself good? Hopefully that gives you a good idea of how the game is played out, showed you some of the art and components, and you can kind of make your own decision based on that. But I'll just give some of my final thoughts as we look back at the Goonies Never Say Die. So one thing you need to know about me is the Goonies is, in my opinion, the best movie made in the 80s, period. I mean, it's just an amazing movie of adventure and kids trying to save their town and all kinds of good stuff going on. I just absolutely love this movie. So I'm going into this game maybe with a very different perspective than a lot of people, but I had pretty high expectations that this would be a game where I actually feel like I'm a Goonie and kind of going through the dungeon and trying to find One-Eyed Willie's treasure. And it does, in a lot of ways, feel that way to me. I think that one of the things I love about this game is how they made it be very much like a role-playing game where, you're rolling dice to see what happens and things like that, but it's very story-driven. But the thing I really think is cool about this game is the Goondocks Master, and really the Goondocks Master makes this game in a lot of ways. It makes the experience for the Goonies going through the adventure, it kind of makes or breaks it for them, right? Because you can really load them down with a lot of stuff that's going on and really make the mission very challenging, which is totally fine. I think, a lot of people will find enjoyment out of that. What we find to be fun is if I, as the Goondocks Master, kind of make this adventure feel great, whether or not I'm like punishing them or whether or not I'm just making it a fun experience for them. And that's kind of the direction that we typically go. Let's just make this a fun experience and be enjoyable for those that are playing, and it has been in a lot of ways. And I love how the dice mechanisms work, how that, it feels very specific to the characters. If, Sloth is obviously going to be a very strong character, but might be weaker in dexterity and searching, and I like that. I like the fact that Data has his own cards, and those really feel thematic and give very much that flavor of his character from the movies. And so all of those things just really come together for me to be a very enjoyable experience. Now, I will say a couple of negatives is that through the campaign or through some of these missions that you're going to be playing, the gameplay can feel a little bit samey. But what makes that less samey is the Goondocks Master kind of throwing these different puzzles at you and throwing these different obstacles in the way for you. So you never know. I might be walking through this doorway to go into to explore a new area, and then all of a sudden this everything collapses behind me, and now there's this rubble between myself and the rest of the Goonies, and so really the Goondocks Master really has to make that an experience that doesn't feel so samey, and also maybe not try to pile on all kinds of junk on them and make it too difficult necessarily. But I think the thing that I like about that is that you can kind of cater that to your game group and whatever you feel like is going to be the best experience for you. I think it's fantastic. I think it feels thematic, this exploration piece and kind of solving these puzzles and using Brand and Andy and Steph to help out along the way. There's a lot to really enjoy about this game. Now, if you are not a Goonies fan, are you going to enjoy this game? I don't know, but you might not even be looking at this game if you're not a Goonies fan. I think you can still enjoy it because it very much feels like a kind of an entry level into RPG experience. The rules can be a little fiddly, I guess, at times in trying to understand exactly how all these pieces work together, especially if you're the one learning the rules. If you're the Goondocks Master, you need to know how to play for yourself, but also how all the other characters play. So if you are that person that's learning the rules, it can be a little bit fiddly and it might not feel very entry level. But if you're somebody who is the adventurer, if you're one of the Goonies going through the game, it's going to feel a lot more entry level. And I like that. I think that's a good thing. I think that's probably what they set off to accomplish is having this RPG experience that's not too overwhelming, but it's also set in this universe that a lot of people are really going to like, myself included. So for me, this one's going to get an 8 out of 10. It's one that I really recommend, especially if you're a Goonies fan. My family has had a lot of fun with this. My wife and I are huge Goonies fans, and so that probably has a lot to do with that. So anyway, really recommend this one. If you're not a Goonies fan, you still could enjoy it just because of that kind of entry level into this RPG that is all about exploring and rolling and checking out these different treasures and gaining these treasures and items and all that. It just feels like a really cool experience. So for us, we really enjoy it. 8 out of 10 for me. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can always reach out to us on YouTube. You can in the comments. Actually, we highly encourage you to like and subscribe and comment and do all those things. Engage us in YouTube. And also you can go to MeepletownGames.com for our website that has all of our content for our podcast, YouTube, some blogs down there, things like that. You can also go to social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. That's at Meepletown Games. And finally, you can reach us on Board Game Geek Guild number 3407. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for coming down to Meepletown.
Thanks for joining us, and thanks to our Patreon supporters for making content like this possible. If you would like to become a Patreon supporter, go to patreon.com/Meepletown. To follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, find us at Meepletown Games. Finally, to connect with us and other residents of Meepletown, you can join Guild 3407 at BoardGameGeek.com. Until next time, thanks for coming down to Meepletown.